Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being here. My name is Francisco Nunez. I am a compliance and certification officer. Right now, I'm actually doing more certification than compliance, but nonetheless, we're here to talk about how to become certified with the City of Chicago. Okay, we're just going to go through the first slide about the mission for our office. The Department of Procurement Services is the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the City of Chicago. We want to make sure that we have a clear, we want to make sure that we have that we work together as a team and with our customers to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing communication and enforcing superior business practices. Okay, the city's doing a lot to try to become more transparent when it comes to procurement. DPS, which is short for Department of Procurement Services, is also committed in providing information, resources, and tools to assist you in the effort to compete with the City of Chicago contracting opportunities. We accept and review applications that are new for certification. Every year we go through no change affidavits for every certified firm, and every 5 years certified firms have to submit a recertification application. Now, we contract and we also contract compliance with negotiating contractual MWDBE goals in participation goals in all of our contracts, or let me rephrase that, not all of our contracts, the vast majority of our contracts. There are some contracts that may not have goals, and it could be for various reasons that that will be too complicated to talk about here. We also set the standards for these contract participation goals. Currently, the City of Chicago for construction contracts, we require about 26% minority owned participation and 6 woman-owned participation. DBE and ACDBE, those come with different requirements depending on what the jobs are. We also assist the vendors through our websites, one being our general website, which is www.cityofchicago.org/procurement. And then we have our certification application portal, contract portal. Anything that you have doing business with the city, it's a different portal, and you will be using chicago.mwdbe.com. Okay, so the City of Chicago certifies businesses in 5 different categories. MBE, which stands for Minority-Owned Business Enterprise. WBE stands for Woman-Owned Business Enterprise. BEPD is a business enterprise run and/or owned by a person with disability. DBE, which is Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, and ACDBE, which is Advantage Concessions Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. Now, DBE and ACDBE are regulated by federal law, and the first 3 are regulated by City of Chicago ordinance. The questions will be at the end, but if you want to start with this one, we could take this one. The question is, can your company be MBE and DBE at the same time? Yes. You could be certified in all 5 if you qualify for all 5. And I always recommend that if you apply for one, apply for anything that you may qualify for, that you believe you qualify for, so that way you don't have to go through the application process. Now, for MBE, WBE, BEPD, it is the same exact application, so you just have to check which ones you want to apply for. So if you check all 3, we will create a record for each one of those. Now, for DB and ACDBE, it's a separate application, but it's also one. So the application will ask you, are you also applying for ACDBE? And if you click yes, then we'll create a record for that as well. And again, this is the best advice I can give anyone. Apply for everything you think you qualify for. There's been so many times where people will apply for either DBE or MBE, and then all of a sudden they get this contract opportunity and they're like, okay, yeah, but for this one we need the other certification. And now they're scrambling, trying to get us to hurry up and do the review. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. Because as you want us to scramble, we've had 30 other applications that came before yours who also want us to scramble. So that's why we don't do it unless it's a emergency that where the President of the United States calls us or something, which is never going to happen. But I mean, there's very few times where they said, we're going to skip the line and this guy's going straight to the front. And 90% of the time 100% of the times when I've seen that happen is because of a mistake that we made. So if we made a mistake, we'll definitely make sure that we correct it. All right, so now we're going to, what are the advantages of being certified? So it provides visibility. Once certified, your firm is listed in the directory, which is accessible to the general public. So the general public can go on our website, www.cityofchicago.org/procurement, and look up all the certified firms. So say, for instance, if I have a company that's an electrical wiring company, someone can go into this directory and just type up electrical. And any company that has any type of codes that has to do with electrical will come up. And this is a way that prime contractors will check whether you're certified or not, okay? Now there's also, like I mentioned earlier, there are also minority, women, and disadvantaged business participation go in city contracts and projects for us and our sister agencies. We'll get a little bit more into detail on what is a sister agency a little bit later. Okay, and there are also, there are businesses in the private sector that seek out certified firms for products and or services. So for instance, big companies like Target and Walmart, they have diversity goals as well. They want to make sure that whenever they're presenting to the general public and to our government officials, they want to show, look, we are hiring, our contracts also have goals to include minorities and women-owned businesses. They want to make sure that they include local businesses, businesses that are in impoverished areas. So, I mean, there is a lot of opportunity out there, but certification at the end of the day is nothing more than a marketing tool. A marketing tool that you as the business owner has to utilize proper to gain a competitive advantage. Okay, so continuing on the benefits of certification. The City of Chicago has a target market program, which is fairly new, which provides exclusive bidding to certified minority and women-owned business enterprises. This allows certified businesses to take 100% of the contract because there are no subcontractor goals associated with this project. So what the City of Chicago is trying to do now is trying to break up what we would at once have had really large projects into smaller projects possibly. And these are all ideas that are floating around. It doesn't necessarily mean this is exactly what's happening. So don't misunderstand what I'm saying or the examples that I give, because at this time, 90% of what I'm saying is just an example. It's not a done deal, or, you know, I can give you an example that maybe we did once, but we will never do again. Correct? I'm not at that bracket where I make the decision. So I don't want you to get a misunderstanding. But pretty much what the City of Chicago is doing, they're evaluating the needs. So we identify the need that we have, right? So say we need to create a new sidewalk, right? We have to pour concrete on a new sidewalk, or, you know, from Ashland to Throop and on 47th Street. Instead of creating one big contract, now it's known that we would create one block at a time. So now by doing one block at a time, we can set the requirements where smaller companies can apply for them, because now you have the bonding capability or whatever, capital to actually do these types of jobs, rather than having a contract that starts on Halsted and ends on Central Avenue, right? That would be a huge project that most small companies would not be able to afford or do. So the city is becoming more conscious on that, and they want to make sure that they provide these opportunities to our small and medium-sized firms. So now the next one, how do you qualify for certification? Now, with this being said, okay, these are presumed groups of people who have been disadvantaged or socially or economically in the past: African American, Hispanic, Asian. When we say Asian, it's very specific to subcontinental Asia and Southern Pacific Asia. So, for instance, the Russian side of Asia does not qualify as a minority-owned business, or Afghanistan, or Uzbekistan. India does, because that's subcontinental. So India's good. India is presumed to be a disadvantaged group of people. Native Americans, women, and for Native Americans, it's very difficult because a lot of times it's hard to trace your lineage. I've seen it happen a couple of times, and it was sufficient for us. But if you are not, or a person with disability for our BEPD certification, but if you are not in this group of people, that does not mean that you do not qualify for the program. All this means is that now you have to submit a package of social disadvantage. So an affidavit of social disadvantage is you give your story. You tell us why you think that you are socially or economically disadvantaged. And then that goes through our affirmative action board. Our affirmative action board meets once a month, and then they will decide whether they believe, or not whether they believe you or not, whether they agree with you being socially or economically disadvantaged because of whatever reason. I can't give you examples of that because that's giving away the answers to the test, so we're going to move on that. So one of our other basic requirements is local businesses, right? You have to be, according to the definition the city of Chicago has, a local business is defined as a business that has the majority of its full-time workforce in one or within all of these counties: Cook, DuPage, Kane, Lake, McHenry, or Will. So DBE and ACDBE is regulated by federal regulations. Therefore, we fall under their jurisdiction. So there technically is no barriers to be certified as a DBE. But there's one rule of thumb. If you are from Illinois, you must be certified with an agency that certifies in Illinois before you can go try to get certified in the state of Louisiana or in the state of California. And the reason for that is the regulations are very specific in requiring a site visit, which we would come to your place of business and do a routine inspection, audit per se. And if somebody from Alabama is calling the city of Chicago to be certified in Illinois, you guys know that the government's not going to spend money for us to go do a site visit. So that's why it's important that you get certified with your local agencies first. So I'm assuming everybody here is from Illinois, so be certified with, there's 5 agencies that certify as DBE. City of Chicago, CTA, Metro, PACE, and Illinois Department of Transportation. But again, if you're going to be if you're seeking a certification as an M or a W with the City of Chicago, it's better to just do it all at once with us. Okay, and it's going to make it a lot easier for you guys. Now the next basic requirement is ownership of the company. 51% of the company has to be owned. This is very important, controlled and managed by the minority, woman, persons with disability, or social or economically disadvantaged individual. What does that mean? That means that I cannot meet, for instance, a truck driver. If my cousin's a truck driver, and he says, but my cousin's a non-qualifying member for one reason or another. And he's like, Francisco, let's open a trucking company. You get 51, and I'll get 49. Since you're a Hispanic male, we'll get certified as a minority-owned business. Like, yes, let's do it. So we do it. We buy 20 trucks. I go put my application in. All of a sudden, they say, well, Francisco, you've never been a truck driver in your life. What do you know about trucking? Who's controlling the company? The 49% owner, right? Who may or may not be qualified to be in the program. So that's what it means by being controlled or managed, controlled and managed. So that's very important. It's one of the biggest areas and most important areas of certification, because we can all do the basic information, like, right? Are you Hispanic? Yes. So I qualify on the race, right? Am I in the 6-county region? Yes. I live in Chicago, so I'm in Cook County. But the control, am I 51% owner? Yes. Do I manage and control the company? Hopefully the answer is yes. But okay, so the next basic requirement that we have is gross receipts. Now, gross receipts can be a little confusing, but just listen up for the one that applies to you. And the one that applies to you is the one that you should remember. So there are gross receipts that are either averaged over 3 years or 5 years, and with certain limits, and that's how you will determine whether you are an established business or not. So according to the definition the city of Chicago uses, and the federal government uses, I'm going to give you what we consider to be an established business. An established business is not certifiable, because we've determined that you no longer fall under SBA Small Business Administration standards per se. So if you are a company that is applying for MBE, WBE, or BEPD, which are our local programs, these local programs are regulated by city ordinance. Okay, so if you are a non-construction company, the average over 3 years is 37.74 million. So if you grab your gross receipts over the last 3 years, add them up, divide them by 3, if they average less than that, you are still considered a small business. If you average more than that, you're considered an established business, so you won't qualify. Now, if you are a construction company, construction companies are prefaced by codes 236, 237, and 238. Any code that is prefaced by those 3 numbers, or those 3 sets of 3 numbers, fall under SBA standards. So to give you an example, 2 examples. If I'm a general contractor that does home remodeling, according to the SBA, a small business is anybody that makes under 36.5 million over an average of 5 years. And that's for MB, WB, and BEPD, okay? No, I'm sorry, not BEPD, because BEPD doesn't qualify for construction codes. Okay, so we have that, all right? Now, say I'm an electrical contractor. SBA says that established business is under 15 million. So if I average over 5 years 15.5, I don't qualify. Okay? So it all depends on what you do, and then you can, and whenever you apply and you look it up, do a basic research through the NACES codes, you'll get those numbers. It's nothing, no big deal. Now, DBE, which is again regulated by federal regulations, federal law, their form of defining an established business is a little bit different than ours. Well, a lot different. Now, for them, the max amount of number, regardless of what SBA standards are, if you average 23.98 million over an average of 3 years, you will not qualify for the program. Now, if you average, if your SBA standard is smaller than 23.98, then that applies. So it's either the SBA standard or 23.98, regardless whether you're construction or non-construction. So for instance, an architectural firm, their size standard is 7.5 million. If you make more than 7.5 million according to SBA standards, you qualify for, you don't qualify for the program. Okay? But, so whichever is smaller, 23.98 or the SBA standard. So now ACDBE, which is the second portion of the federal program, it doesn't matter what you do, your average over 3 years cannot exceed 56.42. Okay? Hope that didn't confuse too many people. I mean, it's a lot of info, and it's kind of hard telling all the programs apart, but obviously at the end, you guys can ask me questions at the end. And again, the reason why we are accepting only questions at the end is the video, the class is being live streamed on YouTube, and they can only hear me because I'm wearing a microphone. At the end, we're going to be passing a microphone around to make sure that you guys can ask any question you guys want. If we don't have enough time, I will definitely stick around and we can ask personal, more specific questions outside. Okay, now another thing, personal net worth standards. So the city of Chicago also realizes that if you're a minority, at certain instances, if you have a certain amount of money, you can be considered to not be disadvantaged anymore. So what they have included in our qualifications, it's a personal net worth standard. So for M and WBE, the threshold only applies to construction companies, and it is 2.25 or $2,250,598.49. The other day I had somebody that came in at $2,250,598.47. So I waited a couple of days, asked for the bank statement. They got 2 cents in interest, and I denied them. I'm just kidding. That did not happen. But so that's the standard, right? If you are a non-construction firm, like a consulting company, architects, engineers, there's no personal net worth standard. You could be Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan opens up a consulting company that's not construction. He can be certified as a minority-owned business if that's what he wants. I think the reason why they have it for construction companies is access to equipment. I think that's the main thing. You know, a lot of these consulting companies are really not going to gain an advantage because most of your advantage comes with intellectual property or just personnel. Now DBE and ACDBE, they have a strict across the board $1,320,000 limit. If you exceed that, you will not qualify for DBE or ACDBE. The calculation of the personal net worth excludes the value of your primary residence and the interest you have in the certified firm. So if your company is worth $10 million, that will not be included in your personal net worth. And if your house is worth $10 million, that may be a little bit different, because we would then question whether you are disadvantaged or not. So how do we apply the application process? The only way for the most part to apply is on an electronic format. So earlier I gave you one of our websites, which is chicago.mwdbe.com. And here you will be able to fill out the application and upload all supporting documentation. We are no longer accepting hard paper applications unless you're applying for an outside certification, which we will discuss a little bit later. There is a $250 fee, but that only applies to minority-owned and woman-owned business enterprises. All the other ones are free of charge. Make sure that when you apply, and I'm going to stress this over and over and over again, submit as much information as you can. Very important. All right. So what do we need from you? We need your contact information. Believe it or not, it sounds like an oxymoron or like for real, of course. People submit applications, and I'm not lying to you, a month later, we're trying to get a hold of them, and none of their information is valid. And then, I mean, especially if you're applying for minority or woman-owned business enterprise, you're paying $250, that's not refundable. So make sure that you guys provide as much information as possible. Even if you use 2 or 3 different phone numbers, that's okay. It's just the whole point, or make sure that the email that you use is one that you check regularly, because because it's also very, or you even call us. I mean, if you don't hear from us in a while, give us a call. So make sure that we haven't been trying to get a hold of you. That's happened to me in the past. And then I asked, well, what happened? This is what I have for you. Oh, that's an old email address I never used. I don't know why you used it for the application. Oh, we moved offices. We have a new office phone, different number, different address. So, I mean, it is the responsibility of the applicant to keep all their contact information up to date. Now, also be sure that you check and you let us know exactly what you're applying for. So if we have a minority woman that's applying for minority, but they don't check the woman aspect of it, we will not give you the woman aspect of it. And there's reasons for that. Because we cannot assume that that's what you want. I've had people who've applied who fall under a certain category of group of people, but refuse to fall under that category of group of people. They want to fall under something different, and I don't know why. It's not really my business to know why that's what they want, but that's why we don't assume. We'll say like, well, you would fall under this. It's like, well, we don't want that. I'm like, okay, then, pick whatever you want, and then we will follow your lead and give you whatever you qualify with, whatever you pick. Okay? Ownership information. Well, let's talk about BEPD a little bit, which is the business enterprise run or operated by people with disability. If you are applying for that one, you need to submit what's called a Schedule G. The Schedule G, you fill that out. I'm not sure, I don't think I've ever even seen one. Schedule G, I think, gets filled out by your physician, and then you bring it to the mayor's office of people with disability. And they are the ones that are going to let us know, give you a certificate that your Schedule G was approved. So then that's what you submit to us, because we are not qualified to determine whether there's a disability or not. And plus, that's very confidential, and we won't accept it. You have to do that personally by yourself at the mayor's office of people with disability. Ownership information, we're going to need to know how and when you received or purchased your company, started your company. Employee information, we want to know who's working for you, how much is everybody making. We're going to need to know where's your facility, let me see your lease. Financial information includes your taxes, your end of year financial statements, including your balance sheet, profit and loss statement, your retained earnings statement, all that stuff we want to look at for the last 3 to 5 years, depending on what codes you're applying for. Licenses, if you're applying to become an engineering company, I want to see your license. I want to see that you're a licensed engineer. Now, can you apply for it and not have a license, be a licensed engineer? You can apply for it. I don't know if you'll get certified because every application is different. But I mean, technically, what I've seen in the past is you're an engineer and you get certified as an architectural firm and as an engineering firm. But you have architects working for you. So we can understand something like that, because I mean, depending on the line of work you do, sometimes you work hand in hand. So that's why the review process is very important. We want to know your experience. We want to know your experience. You provide us with your resume, list of all the equipment that you have, leases, again, a professional association that you may have, contract information. We want to see what kind of work have you done in the past 2 years. What contracts do you have pending? Invoices, purchase orders. Now, don't get me wrong, when you're submitting these contracts, make sure you're submitting real stuff. There's times that I have asked for, okay, well, you did this? Yes, I did that. Well, can you show me that they paid you for this? Oh, wait, I sent you the wrong one. And this was $500,000, and the real one is $200, right? So it's very important that you give us real information. Okay, so the type of businesses that qualify for the program are basic structures. So technically you have to be a legal entity in order to apply. So these are the legal entities that we accept and most commonly see. There are other types like that we're not going to discuss, but are very rare. So we have the sole proprietor, which pretty much means besides you, there's really no legal existence of your business. General partnership, it's a little bit, similar, but now it's two people. But for this, you will have to have a partnership agreement, so that way we know what's going on in your business. We had the limited partnership, which is also similar to a partnership, but you have an assumed name certificate or certificate of limited partnership. Now, and then the most common ones are obviously company, having a corporation. A corporation is treated as an entity as an entity completely separate from its shareholders. It allows others to invest in the business without being liable for the debts of that business. Now, if you are a corporation, we are going to need all the supporting documentation showing your corporation, which includes that you have to be in good standings with the state of Illinois. So your filings have to be up to date, your annual reports have to be up to date. We're going to see your articles of incorporation, certificate of incorporation, bylaws of the corporation, copies of all stock certificates, whether they're canceled or not. We want to see the front and back, and minutes, meeting minutes. We want to see that you're doing a meeting every year. And then the other common one that we have is a limited liability company. So again, there's a partnership with a managing member or managing members, but we want to see that operating agreement. Definitely want to see it. There are times where it's a single member LLC and you really don't have an operating agreement. Depending on how in debt your company gets, we might want you to have one. But I mean, if you're a startup, you're by yourself, I mean, so it's understandable if you don't, in other words. We're going to need your articles of organization. Articles of organization, and again, you will have to be in good standings with the state of Illinois on this one as well. Now, once you have your formation and you have your company ready, there are certain industries that are very scrutinized, well, not scrutinized, but have special rules. For instance, I do site visits on the following industries. All construction companies, by regulation, you have to do a site visit. Suppliers, by regulation, you got to do a site visit. But I do it as well for trucking companies. I do it for manufacturing companies. And there's another one, but I can't think of it right now. Okay, but right now we're going to talk about a certain industry that's very, very, that I want everybody to be sure of, because it's one that a lot of people seek to be certified in, but they don't qualify because of these basic definitions that I'm going to explain. So a supplier, okay, we're going to talk about a supplier. According to the definition the city of Chicago has, a supplier must be a regular dealer, which is a firm that owns, operates, or maintains a store, warehouse, or other establishment in which materials, supplies, articles, or equipment are bought, kept in stock, and regularly sold or leased to the general public in the usual course of business. So we understand that, but you still need to have a stock. Now, does that mean that you have to have a door where a customer can walk in and buy a screw? No, because maybe you just do wholesale. Maybe you just deal with big companies. Maybe your orders have to be a certain size or a certain amount. We get that, we understand that, but your company and your business and day-to-day operations should be set up as to follow that model as well. So you can't have like a little store and then say, oh, I have all that stuff there, but I only sell to big companies. No, you have to, you know, your model has to be consistent to what you're saying, okay? Now let's say you're a distributor with this. You're a distributor. Do you qualify for certification? So firms operating as a distributor are identified as having a direct relationship with a manufacturer to distribute its goods and products within a specified territory or region. The goods and or products are not available or sold to the general public. So we go to Sealy mattresses, right? The Sealy manufacturer, and say, I want to open up a Sealy mattress store, and they give you a distribution agreement. Does that mean that I'm going to have 100 mattresses or 200 mattresses in stock? Probably not, because it wouldn't make sense. Because I don't know which mattresses people are going to like and which ones they're going to take. So I get a distribution agreement with Sealy, and now as my customers are coming in and ordering their stuff, I place the orders with Sealy, and Sealy might deliver them straight to their house. And that's okay. We will certify you if you are a distributor, because we understand that there is a competitive advantage and a reason, something that sets you apart. Now, what we do not certify are brokers. And again, we're talking about M&W only, not about DBE or ACDBE. Firms acting as a broker are not eligible for certification as a minority-owned business enterprise or woman-owned business enterprise. So a broker, according to the definition, is a person or entity that fills orders by purchasing or receiving supplies from a third-party supplier rather than its own existing inventory, and provides no substantial service other than acting as a conduit between his or her supplier and his or her customer is a broker. So if somebody calls me and says, I want 10 pipes, 10-inch copper pipes, and then I call the Home Depot, see the pricing, Menards, then I call Granger, and I get the best pricing. Okay, Home Depot got the best one, I'm going to sell it to him, drop ship it. Not going to be certified as a minority-owned or women-owned business. It's against city ordinance. But if you want to be certified as a broker with the city, as a DB and ACDBE, you can do that. So that's one of the little differences between the local programs and the federal programs. After the application is submitted, what happens then? The process can take approximately 60 to 90 days from when all documents are received. So again, all documents are received. That's why it's very important that you submit everything. And 60 to 90 days is kind of like wishful, and it's our long-term goal, but it depends also on how many applications we're getting. So there's only 5 certification officers with the city. Right now it's narrowed down, well, it is 5 right now. It's 5 right now. It should be about 6 or 7. So, and right now we're getting an influx, huge influx of applications. So, I mean, we try to do our best to get them out as soon as we can, but that's why it's very important that you guys submit a full application. It really helps us save time. Your application's checked to make sure all documentation is there. Documents are thoroughly audited. And then we also have, like I said, the site visits. If you're an IT firm, well, actually, look, with the site visits, all ACDBE and DBE applications require a site visit. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. But not MBE and WBE, only construction companies and suppliers. I do for trucking companies, manufacturing companies, and something else that I still can't remember. And one of the main things that we once you approve your certifications, it's valid for 5 years. But every year you still have to submit a recertification. So earlier, an annual no change affidavit, I'm sorry. So earlier I spoke about an outside certification, something that you submit in hard copy. If you're certified with the Chicago Minority Supplier Development Council, and I don't have it on this slide, I'm going to have to add it, or the Women's Business Development Council, you can go through what we call the outside certification. Now, sometimes it's referred to as an expedited process, but it's not going to it's not going to be shorter than 60 to 90 days or even longer. What it does, it saves you time because it requires less information. So instead of submitting, it probably asks for about 40% of what the regular application will ask for. So that's why this can be helpful to some. But if you have I never recommend, if you are not already certified with them, I don't want to I don't want to give a recommendation. It's not going to make a difference whether you go through them first. It's not going to make us not review the application the same way. So just keep all that in mind. There's no recommendation. All right, so maintaining your certification. Every year you still have to do a no change affidavit, and every 5 years you will have to submit a recertification application. Now let's say you got certified and you realize like, oh my God, I forgot to add this code, which is something that I do every single day. You can submit what we call an expansion request. Now the expansion request is going to require, again, documents like contracts, copies of special licenses, any needed insurance, anything that may be required specifically for this code. We're going to have to get all that information as well. So it could be a lengthy process, just like a new certification, pretty much. So that's why whenever you do your original application, try to be as thorough as you can. So now we spoke about sister agencies earlier. Our sister agencies are Chicago Public Schools, Cook County. So if you're certified with Cook County, you don't have to be certified with the city. The city accepts Cook County, and Cook County is alone. We don't accept any other certification except for Cook County. We have the Chicago Park District, Public Building Commission, Chicago Housing Authority, Chicago Transit Authority, City Colleges, Metropolitan Pier Exhibition Authority, which is Navy Pier, and Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, okay? And we're gonna go quickly over top 10 reasons why people get denied. Questionable ownership and control. We spoke about this earlier. You can't tell us where the money came from. You can't tell us that you're really in control with, that you're really in control of your business. So that might be a reason for denial. Unclear description of critical functions and who is responsible. So say for instance, again, I'm a broker, but I'm saying no, I'm a supplier. If it's really unclear, you will not get your certification. You can't show where your startup fund came from. And the reason why this is important is a lot of times we have people that get tempted to venture out on their own by someone that doesn't qualify for our program, who will give them the money to start the company. It's happened in the past. That's not like something that we've never seen before. We have a company, huge company A, that I work for, and they say, Francisco, my young Mexican friend, you should go start your own company and get certified as a minority-owned company, and then we're going to do a lot of business together. Here's some money for you to start. You will not be certified, because then it becomes a control and independence issue. I'm technically not in control of my company because I've had ulterior motives to start it. Okay, outside secondary employment takes majority of our time. So I work as a construction, I'm a foreman for a big construction company. But then I decided to start my own construction company. But I'm still working full-time with the other construction company. Do I really have time to run my company? Probably not, because the hour operations for construction companies are normally the same. Now, if I'm an IT consultant with AT&T during the day, and during at night, I consult small businesses on IT, is that acceptable? Absolutely, right? You have two jobs. Now, granted, again, it's still subject to review. So any example that I use is not obsolete or a fact. It's still up for review. Okay, so again, you're not located in the 6-county region. Your point of contact did not respond because we don't have updated information. Inconsistencies within the applicant with various names. I've had an application where it's my last name is Nunez, so this is not a real company. So some documents say Nunez Incorporated, and other companies say Nunez LLC. So what is it? So that will cause a denial as well. Problem with contracts, there's missing, complete, not signed, or executed by qualified owners. So you send me a contract, right? But oh, lo and behold, someone else is signing your contract under your title name, right? So those things, we look at all those things. You can't provide the proof of payment. You can't provide that they actually paid you. Required documentation is not there. We don't have your financial information. So again, a lot of this can be avoided if you thoroughly go through your application and submit the correct information. Okay? And if you need help, you guys can always come to visit us here at City Hall. We're in the 8th floor, 806. If you don't feel like coming all the way down here, give us a call, 312-744-4900. If you want to reach certification, you dial 1, compliance, dial 2, contracts, you dial 3. We also have a consultant located in room 800, and she is there to assist you guys with applications if need be. And I always recommend that everybody calls her first to explain what you're trying to do, and then she will be able to assist you accordingly. And there are agencies around your neighborhoods that also help with this. The city doesn't like to recommend anyone because if anything goes wrong, we don't want to, be liable, held liable, or in general, me personally, I just don't want to feel bad. If I recommend someone and then all of a sudden you get burned, then that's going to make me feel not very well. So that's why we try to avoid. Now, we do have time for questions, but give me 1 second to get the microphone. She'll work with me too, so she'll be passing it around, whoever has a question. You're good, you're good. Yeah, it's just so our YouTube can hear us.
I heard construction a lot, I heard architects. What else is the city, where is the list for the needs of the
Okay, got you. That makes sense. So that's a loaded question because remember, when you're going to be certified with the city of Chicago, you're going to be certified only on things that you can personally do, that you have the experience to do. So now, do you want to check whether your services would be needed by the city of Chicago? Then you can go to our current bid opportunities online, www.cityofchicago.org/procurement. To the left-hand side, there is a link that says current bid opportunities. You can sign up for that, or you can look through that list. Also, earlier they were talking about our there's DPS alerts, and DPS alerts, when you sign up for DPS alerts, you put in everything that you do. So if you're a trucking company, you put trucking, what kind of hauling you do, things like that. And when any contract comes out that has anything that you mentioned, it will give you an alert, an email like saying, a new trucking contract's coming out, and you said you're a trucker. So that's another thing. And then we also have our buying plan. Our buying plan is going to give you a forecast of the next year and a half of what's supposed to come out or what we expect to come out. That is possible, but there are certain industries where it would not be allowed because, remember, one of the requirements to be certified, you have to be able to devote 100% of your time to the company. If you can't devote 100% of your time to the company, then you cannot be you're not certifiable. Now, So again, I give you the industry, right? So is it common industry practice? It's not common industry practice that a construction company works at night trying to do construction. I mean, there's construction crews out there at night, but all that planning happens during the day, not at night. Now, I know of a lot of consultants that will go to your house or place of business after hours. Okay, so it all depends on what you're doing and the story you can do to back it up. Okay, you're the ones telling us the story on how you devote 100% of your time. What's 100% of your time? Does that mean 24/7? No, right? Because we understand that sometimes you have to eat. Sometimes. But, so, it's, it all depends. You have to just tell your story.
I have two questions. One, if you have a potential company to start that is both minority owned from the outside and women owned, also, you should be looking at both certifications or one certification.
I won't answer directly because that would be advising. But according to the regulations, the qualifying owner has to be 51%. So now, say for instance, if I'm a minority and I own 35%, and my sister, who's also a minority, owns 30%, or 40%, say 40%, and then the next person that owns the rest of it is a non-qualifying member, we would only qualify for minority-owned business because the company's technically still not majority owned by a woman. Majority owned.
And also, I see that you might have already covered this, but there's 3 to 5 years tax returns if you're new coming on.
Correct. If you're a new company, we understand that you won't have the 3 to 5 years of tax returns, and that's very understandable.
And final question.
Yes.
I heard you speak about manufacturing and a couple other industries, and then I heard you talk about IT consulting. Is the blanket for consulting that as long as you're doing consulting, it's not just applied to suppliers? Obviously, the consultant is pretty much other services, let's say.
Right.
You might be consulting for, could you consult for a project that's going on, a construction project?
Correct. Yes. No. No, no, no. So consulting, again, when it comes to consulting, it's the sky's the limit. Depending on what your expertise are, and you can prove that you can do that type of work, the consulting is consulting.
So you could consult technically, you could have, be a consultant, be able to find bid opportunities in all of those sectors. You could, as a consultant, be able to outsource bid opportunities. in all of
Correct.
that.
I mean, if you're like a consultant, yeah, talent consultant, general management, yeah. Correct, yeah.
You can consult or construction.
You can consult whatever, yeah.
And then you can still consider.
Right,
contract
right.
contract out.
Well, you see, when it comes down to like the contracting and the compliance of it, that's a whole different ballgame. When it comes to certification, you can be certified as a consultant doing whatever you want. You can consult in the colors that we're going to use for those billboards. You'll be you visual arts or digital media, yeah. You don't have to physically do the.
The person who is the consultant on the colors, you need the consultant to find the person who's the consultant on those colors. And then
Well, you see that you kind of would be considered a broker, but it depends also on the type of industry you're in. So, for instance, IT companies. Most IT companies will hire contractors, and we understand that. Now, for instance, if you're a construction company and you're hiring someone else, then you can technically say I'm a general contractor. So that makes sense. But if you're saying I'm a carpenter, but then I look at your tax returns and 90% of your financial statements are saying that, or profit and loss are saying that 90% of everything is going to a different contractor that's doing the work plus material, then technically you have no valid useful function other than a broker. Well, technically it's not a broker. It's called absentee management. But you see, but if not necessarily, you have to do the consulting. You don't necessarily have to do the work. So,
well, you can tell a good story. I mean,
yeah.
Let me tell like
Right.
story.
Right. So let me see, how can I give you an example? So say for instance, let me give you a scenario. So if I'm a consultant, a general management consultant, right, and a company hires me to consult them in a. They're going to open up a new restaurant in the airport, and they hired me as a consultant.
Or like project manager.
Right. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them the theme and give them all the ideas and consult them and this and that. I'm not necessarily going to do the work. I'm going to hire someone to put in the kitchen. I'm going to hire someone to do the electrical, but you're consulting. So, I mean, I guess it would be more like intellectual or more informational based. So yeah, so I mean, as long as you tell your story, you're good to go. Yeah, you're good to go. And again, at the end of the day, with those kind of things, the one that's going to matter is the compliance plan. The compliance plan has to make sense.
I have a lot of experience in construction, and now I want to start my own company. We are working from our home, and we do not have any employees, any materials, or anything yet. We have started the business. I mean, we registered, we got the FEIN number,
Right.
and we have some capital.
Yeah, you're a startup. You're a startup. We understand that a lot of small businesses start from home. I've certified companies that have a home office. Now again, it all depends on what type of industry you're in. So say if you're an HVAC, like a consulting company. I mean, you could have a home office. Construction company could have a home office.
It's not supplied.
Yeah, a supplier. I mean, you can't. I mean, unless you're gonna let people into your home. Can you tell any type of consulting? It all depends, again, industry practice. You guys, this is your industries. These are your jobs. You guys know more about this than we do, and to a certain extent, we see it all the time. But you are the one that are going to be able to really explain it to us.
Now,
So-
without having to show any contracts or any
No,
things
well,
like
I mean,
that.
If you're a startup company, we understand that you won't have any.
Okay, I can
Okay,
still
yeah.
apply for
You
it.
can still apply. You can form a legal entity yesterday and apply today. We will understand that, but then again, we're going to rely heavily on a lot of other things. We'll use that as the last question for the live broadcast. I'm going to stick around and we can sit here and talk and ask specific questions. Thank you guys, everybody, for coming and everybody for watching. Any questions, just give us a call, okay? Oh, the consulting is a little...